My guest today started out with a marketing career in a touring band, and then he built 2 schools around this simple idea that students play longer, learn more, and have more fun when they're playing with other people. John Kozicki is the founder of Michigan Rock School in Michigan and the host of Rock School Proprietor Podcast. He's built 2 schools from the ground up, sold one of them, and is now working on a band program curriculum he plans to share with studios everywhere. Today, we're going to talk about how he built his unique music career and how he's helping other music schools around the world. John, thanks so much for being here. It's great to see you. How are you doing today, man?
Eric, I'm doing well and really happy to join you on your podcast.
Yeah. Last time a couple times ago, I guess we chatted. I was on yours, and since then, I saw you speaking at NAMM. We ran into each other there. You had a great talk there. So what's going on in the John Kozicki world this week?
This week, we are, it's funny. I'm in a season of challenge with the music school, honestly. I was talking with my wife this morning and recently had a longtime fantastic instructor leave my studio. She's about to have her second child. Life changes, right? So trying to replace her. We're going through some changes in some of the tech that we use. I feel I'm in the thick of it, and it's all stuff that I've experienced before, but that heavy feeling that you get when you're in those situations. So boy, I didn't mean to start this on such a downer.
No, that is not a downer at all. And actually, I'm really glad you did. And there's a bunch of directions that we can just kind of dive right into. You mentioned the seasons and the seasonality, but the thing that I've really heard and that I just want to just poke on right away, because I think, I was sitting in my living room yesterday and there was a windstorm, and we have this fabulous old plum tree, Asian plum tree that we've had forever, and it blew over right on my neighbor's fence. And the feeling that I got in my stomach, realizing that I'd have to deal with it, hopefully nothing was injured, that moment of like, I have to deal with this, was the same feeling I get as a business owner when you get, they're the same emotion, right? It's a physical, oh gosh, this person's leaving and I've got to replace this teacher. If you were listening to this podcast in the last week, you've probably had one of those moments that comes up. How am I going to pay for this thing that just, this instrument repair? How am I going to replace this teacher at my school? Those are the real things. How am I going to transition this old tech into this new tech that we're using? I'm glad you brought that up first, because so many people come on, they're like, oh man, everything's cool. It's all great. I'm crushing it. I'm just closing so many deals. But it's really good to address that emotion. And when you said it, I connected with you because I felt it. Am I close to that? It's heavy. A lot of stuff happening.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I was about to head out for my morning walk today, and my wife could sense it. And I was like, you know what? It's just that I'm going through this season right now where, yes, I've had these problems before, but it seems like I've got 3 or 4 of them all at once. And so it's just really heavy. And I'm trying to remind myself, I've dealt with each one of these things before, made it through. It's a little bit heavier now because they're all coming at once, but deep breath, just task at hand, and we'll make it through.
You mentioned first having a really great teacher leaving. Is that the thing that's most top of mind? If you were to say, oh, this is the thing that I am prioritizing the most, or I need to address the most?
No, I would say the tech stuff is the one that we're really addressing right now, because as you know, tech moves so fast, right? And when it's integral in your business, you've got to address those problems right away. I think we're on the tail end of that. So I think we've got a handle on that. But circling back to the instructor, this instructor, she's one of my star instructors. And to clarify, she's already gone. She's gone off on maternity leave, and she's let me know, life changes, we're not coming back. But she's been with me for 8 years.
Whoa.
I met her when she was like a 16 or 17-year-old kid, way back when I first started my studio. One of the one of the community building things I used to do was host open mic nights. And they were unique because I was hosting them for all ages. So it became this great experience for young musicians to come and have an opportunity to play. And she just wandered in one day and sort of blew me away with her singer-songwriter vibe. And we kept in touch, and ultimately I hired her, and she's been one of the most amazing instructors that I've ever had. And so
this
leading up to this, very special. And leading up to it, she's in her mid to late 20s. And leading up to it, when she told me, I was like, oh, I knew this day was going to come. I knew this day was going to come at some point. And in the back of my head, I felt like I had been preparing myself. But, you can't and then when I transitioned out of the sort of the remorse and like, oh, the loss.
How did you meet the moment?
Thing.
In the moment, you said you were kind of prepared for it, but like,
I leaned into support.
Yeah,
I leaned into support.
So do you feel good about that? Like you felt good about, because sometimes we get in these moments and we're like, I should have done this, but compassion's generally the right idea to take. So you feel good about how that went.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, actually, she just texted me right before we got on this call. And so I leaned into being supportive and understanding and like celebratory that she's in this phase of life that I remember being in like welcoming my second child, right? I remember how amazing that felt. And so that is like way more important to me than, now I'm going to have to try and find another instructor. And when I transitioned into that part of the challenge, I just tried to come to terms with, she's not replaceable in the sense of like, all right, I don't just get another guitar instructor in here. I don't just get like another person. This is a new phase, right? And I'm going to welcome the opportunity to welcome someone else into my studio to do maybe similar tasks. But like, I can't replace her, if that makes sense.
And that's a beautiful thing, because the brand and your product and your value proposition, while she was with you, had a certain thing that it's not going to have. It'll have something different. You're opening that door up. I'm leaning into this because I know that everyone listening can inventory. It could be it's the exact same thing when a student comes in and says, hey, I'm not taking lessons anymore. Which for many years, I really did poorly with that. I took it so personally as their one-on-one guitar teacher. And I look back and I had to practice it to be like, oh, when someone's tenure is done with you, for whatever reason, you just, tell them you love them and thank you and can't wait to see you over the summer. Come jam with me, whatever that thing is. And it's hard. And it is a learning, it's like a life school thing. Right? Yeah. Because these are very personal relationships. You have been this person's mentor. They've done great work for you. They've added an imprint to your business and to your place in the community. And you're accepting that's going to be different. And I'm going to find somebody else and I'm going to go through it. And I'm really glad you shared it, because I know every single person listening has experienced something like this recently, that emotion that comes up. And it's really important as a business owner, a business leader, a person in the community. This is something that I've really put this under risk. I was on a walk today thinking about the idea of risk, right? When we take on anything, we start a business, anything comes with risk in life, right? When you hired that person, there's the risk they're going to leave someday. It's just part of, and we have to practice. And musicians in general are very risk averse, right? Because it's a heavy emotion, but it's part of being a leader, right? Is being able to have take criticism, to have people leave your studio, to have employees move on, to have difficult things happen, to have tech break, have roofs leak. All these things happen when you do cool things. And I love that you mentioned, you're like, I'm doing really, really cool things. And I have a list of cool things that you're doing that I want to talk about today. But I love that you started out with like, hey, I've got some life. I'm in a season of life, because that's something we can all relate to. And it's easy to just say, here's my list of successes I'm experiencing right now.
Well, and to piggyback a little bit on that, I think the business lesson is being open to growth. Because if we hold so tight onto how things have been going, how we have been operating, everything that we have done up to this point, we grasp that, right? That doesn't leave as much room for us to really explore and find new things and experience the friction that comes with growth.
Ooh, yeah. Say that again.
The friction? Are you talking about the friction?
Yeah, just rephrase what you said, 'cause that's a really great point. The friction that comes with growth.
The more we hold on to what we perceive as either success or what got us to where we were, the more we don't want to lose that, right? Does that make sense? But there is no real growth without some sort of friction, right? So when these challenges come up, when we experience some sort of friction, as much as it's a challenge in the moment, if we approach it as like, okay, I'm not going to let this take me out of the game. The only way out of it is through, then we are going to come out the other side having grown, having learned, in a better place.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. And I think there's this other piece too, that in these moments, I have a new student who is an executive and really looking to really get serious about guitar and add that into his life. And we were just talking about this yesterday. And my recommendation during this first long lesson of getting to know each other is it was just kind of like, getting through this, what you're trying to do creatively and artistically, I would really encourage just keeping your eyes open. And in business, I do the same thing. When we have a heavy moment, when we have a season that we're dealing with, is the practice is starting to really look for opportunities that you might not know were there, right? You just start, and it's hard to describe, but this is how Fonz was started. My studio started, like kind of my whole life has been this series of being something going on. And then I'm in a space where I'm like, I start paying attention. And it's weird, but I'm like, universe, I could really use something new. Like, I think I'm ready to start teaching again. And I recently was like, I really need more I'm ready to start reaching more students and do more lessons. And as soon as I did that, in the next couple weeks, I had like 5 phone calls for new awesome students. And I think it's because I was paying attention and coming out of a place of being maybe a little, that heavy emotion that we were talking about at the beginning, transmuting that into a place of openness. And that's where the new person comes in. That might be a new rock star teacher or inspire a new way that you run your school. So yeah, it's interesting to talk about because no one talks about it, but it is part of the process of doing awesome things.
Yes. Since you mentioned the student, I'm going to throw this one in. So when I was a young guitar student myself, I think all guitar players go through that phase where they're like, I want to play faster. I just want to play really fast and impress whoever, right? I was focused on sweep arpeggios, and this is the metal era, right? So I'm
right there with you. Yep.
Yeah.
Ingve.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I just hit a wall, and I was like, why am I not getting better at these? Why can't I play faster? Why can't I do this thing that I think I really want to do? And then it's like I had this awakening one day that I don't actually like sweep arpeggios. And I thought, like, why am I pursuing this? This is not really something that I'm excited about. It's more of like kind of a trick that I can use to show off. And when I had that realization, I also realized like what I really get fired up about is songwriting. What I really like to do is create. And it almost like a complete 180. I shifted gears. I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to focus on sweep arpeggios anymore because I really don't, that doesn't fire me up. Where my passion is songwriting and writing songs and creating. And I leaned into that and haven't really looked back since.
That's a great story. That is a really wonderful story, because there's this journey of doing things you don't want to do because you think you should, because it can often help you get somewhere, but also coming to a place of maturity where you wake up and say, no, this isn't me. Like, I only have X amount of energy to do these things, and this is not going to be one of those things that I focus on. It's not because you couldn't get there if like it was your life, if you really wanted to do it, if it was your thing. Sometimes it's a physical attribute that will hold you back from whatever that thing is, but that probably wasn't it. It was that you needed to get in touch with what's actually important to you.
Right.
And I feel like we meet with a ton of people, and you can tell really quickly if they're living their day-to-day life in alignment with what actually matters, right? And I love that you had that moment where you're like, oh, this is the thing I'm going to do. That goes right back to what I was just saying about paying attention to the universe. That includes yourself, right? Because the opportunities, when you had that moment, you're like, I'm not feeling this sweep thing, but I keep doing it because it was a societal norm for a period of time.
Yes,
like I spent probably an hour and a half a day working on them for a period of my life. That like Steve Vai's 12-hour workout he published or whatever, right? Those things came out and you're like, this is what we're doing. But I think that what you said and what everybody goes through is saying, wow, if this is something I really want to do, if it's really important to me, I can go through playing a really bad guitar recital, right? I can bomb a gig. I can, because it's what I really want to do. And knowing the difference between friction required for growth and knowing that the end result you're seeking isn't actually important to you, right? Because we're getting very philosophical, but then you're like, well, the journey can be really impactful and important, but it's really what aligns with who you are and knowing that. So after that, is that what led you into your now curriculum that defines your school and your program and that you're talking about?
I think had I not had that awakening, I probably would not have traveled down the path that I went, because I've always been more of a creator and want to like tinker with things and put things together, right? So I think that's sort of the origin of me deciding, you know what, this path that I'm on right here, which is as you mentioned, the societal norm, right? The shredding metal guitar player, having that realization that that's not really what I'm going for. What I really want to do is I want to create an impact by writing my own songs. I want to put a band together. I want to record an album. I want to play shows. I want to embrace the magic that is associated with making music with and for other people. So I think, it's a vast, vast journey, but I think it put me on that path, right? Because now in hindsight, looking at the curriculum that I've been creating, which is a mixed instrument beginner band curriculum, the impetus is really about, instead of putting kids in private lessons first, what you do is you put them in a room together and you teach them the fundamentals of rhythm and how to play together first, and slowly from there teach them the more foundational details about how to read rhythms and how to play a keyboard and everything else. So the idea is that we're foregoing the need for private lessons until students get a bit more focused on what it is that they feel they need to learn. Because I think initially that passion for playing together is what sort of hooks you in. That passion for creating music with other people. It's the Victor Wooten thing. It's the Victor Wooten philosophy, right? Like, before you learn to read and write, you learn to communicate. So it's that general principle applied to a mixed instrument class.
So when you go to your website and you call your school about getting set up for lessons, I'm a parent of a young kid. The first I wouldn't be signing up for guitar lessons. I'd be signing up for a introductory band class, with a group of other kids?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'll qualify that by saying there is sort of an age range that I think this is the sweet spot for. And it might not be the right choice for everyone, but I do think that when I explain to people like, okay, well, what is it that you want your child to do in music lessons? When I ask that question, right? Well, what are you trying to get from these music lessons for your child? Do you want them to read and write music? Do you want them to do competitions and things like that? That's not what this is for, right? But if someone says, I just really want them to find their thing, and they seem to be interested in music, and we tried sports and that wasn't their thing, so I thought maybe music would be it. That's going to be the student that I want for this program.
Oh, so exactly, through a couple of questions. Like if I said, well, my son's a genius and he plans to go to Stanford, and I heard that music can help him get into Stanford. You're like, okay, this probably isn't, they're not worried about winning the MTNA competition. Okay, cool. That's not me. This is, you can qualify by asking the parents a few questions, what their intentions are for this. I bet. I was also imagining, I talked to so many parents and say, you know what, I started playing when I was a kid and I quit. And I always wished I would have kept doing it. And I want my kid to be able to play music that I never got to learn.
Right.
That's okay. Like the one that I feel would be perfect for what you're describing.
Let's play that out. If you're the parent and you say that to me, and I'll say, oh, what happened? Why did you quit?
Yeah.
And usually the answer is like, I don't know. Well, I didn't practice.
I didn't like
the lessons. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Interestingly, just yesterday, I was on the phone with a parent, and it was parent of a guitar student who had been in lessons for already about 3 to 4 years with another instructor. Instructor was moving away and looking for a new instructor. And I asked about, well, what has your son been doing? And the son's been playing classical and electric. And I said, oh, okay, so tell me about that. How much of those lessons were classical and how much were electric guitar? And she said, mostly classical, about 70%. And I said, all right, well, what are you looking for in a new instructor for him? And she said, recitals and competitions. And I immediately thought, this is not the place for you. And so I recommended her to a friend of mine who is exactly that, who actually is a lot like you, right? A classical player who also plays electric. Yeah. And gave her the number, and hopefully he finds what his family and he is looking for in the instructor. But that I wouldn't want them to come to me, because that's not what we do. They're going to be disappointed,
Yeah, and that's a great point, because I know that I've been guilty at certain points in my career. Like, I'm not a jazz teacher. I don't enjoy teaching jazz guitar. I'm not proficient enough at it. And I have so many friends that are awesome at teaching jazz. So I send them to somebody else. But there's been moments where I'll end up, someone will call, I'm a terrible fit, and I'll just be like, oh yeah, I can totally do that. I'm like, what am I saying? I don't do that at all. Here am I just lying to myself and to you. And of course, I give it a shot because I think, well, I'm just going to get good at jazz. But it's so beneficial if you can get to a point where you consistently whoever is writing in, you think about what's best for them. And like you're saying, say, this isn't the right fit. What you're looking for isn't what I do. That's what this person does. And I really believe that there's a shortage of music opportunities, given how many kids there are, how many people are that want to play, right? None of us are in competition. We'll never be in competition. There will always be more potential students than there are people doing the thing. And so it's great to be that person. And so what will happen, and if you're listening to this, especially if you're getting out of music school, like a lot of you are, and you're out trying to do your thing, is that if you can do that thing where you can send, if you get a call that's not the right fit, you can send them to somebody who is the right fit, you will invariably get return calls that are the right fit from people that called the person you just referred someone to.
Yeah.
It is because that classical guitar player probably doesn't want to do what John's doing, right? They're like, that's not my trip.
Exactly.
I don't really have the people skills for that. Like, I'm super nerdy, great with technique. I can get you just doing the thing, throwing some sweep arpeggios on top of it. It's going to be great. That's not them. So this is a great kind of flywheel of just doing the right thing that you're describing. So I dig that.
And I think in our industry, I think this parent was somewhat unique in they already knew what they wanted for their child. They had this kid had 3 to 4 years of lesson experience already, so he was already on a track. I think so often when parents are looking for music lessons, they don't know the nuance involved, right? And so what they do is they'll lead with questions that relate to the things that they know that are important to them, like schedule and like maybe location and pricing. And those things are not always going to equal success for the child. So that's why I'm a huge proponent of having those conversations and digging a little bit deeper and helping parents realize, well, what exactly are they looking for when they get their kid into lessons? Do they want their child to be able to read and perform in competitions? Or do they want them to be able to use this gift, music, for the rest of their lives? And those are the people that I welcome in, because the things that we are not good at my studio are competitions and tests and things like that. But we're great at community. We're great at giving students the tools so that they can take what they've learned in lessons and go play with some other kid that they know down the street who has a guitar, or years later when they're in their college dorm and they've got their guitar and some other kid says like, oh, I play drums. And then they start a band. Those are the things that I'm teaching the students to do.
You're focused on the human element and the connection and that journey of playing. But it literally all goes back to what you described as your moment of revelation when you hung up the Rising Force Yngwie and started playing some tunes. Yep.
Yeah, I was more a Marty Friedman fan, but yeah, sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's tough. Okay, good distinction. Both really hard to play. And so that's in your day-to-day in your school. And are you describe where the community that you're serving? So you're in Michigan. It's summertime. I'm assuming there's a lot of summer programs going on at your school right now. Do you do a lot of that? Or is it?
So the way that I have my school set up is we run our band program year round. Mm-hmm. And we call them band sessions. So we'll run a band session for about 4 months. And the band session starts with selecting a set list and rehearsals every week, learning how to play those songs as a group. And it ends with a live concert. And that takes us about 4 months. So the way I have the yearly calendar structured is basically three sessions, right? So we've got January through April, May through August, and then September through December. So that May through August sustains us. It keeps things nice and robust. So historically, we don't experience that same huge dip that a lot of studios experience. We see a little bit of that, but generally the students that start in the summer are enough to sort of even everything out.
It's almost like you've got year-round summer camps. It's like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like year-round camp vibes on a trimester system. That's a really cool flow because for a lot of teachers, summertime camps and music schools, that's where you'll bring in new people. They'll bring their buddies. They'll do a day camp. they'll often churn, or some of them will stay. But what I really like about your operation is how consistent it is. It's very simple. It's like, oh, there's 3 trimesters, and the summer is a great time to get going to see what the deal's about. Any time of the year is. The fall is another huge time when people start taking lessons because they're back to school. They're getting into, that's a perfect time. The old New Year's resolution. So you've hit like the 3 big moments. Parents need something for their kids during the summer. Parents are ready to get organized after summer because it's fall, and we said we were going to start lessons in the fall. I got a guitar for the holidays, and now I'm ready to start. So you've built this very simple, I love this, and I didn't know this until just now, this trimester system to align with how parents live. I mean, whether you did it mindfully or not, it's really brilliant because those are the 3 moments for music school growth. And I mean, we all know that, right? Yeah. Is that we get calls going into the summer for camps. We get calls in the fall when people are getting their schedules together for school. We deal with the soccer teams, and then we rejuggle it. But that's another story. And then January, you get people starting with a New Year's resolution. That is, and the other times of year are significantly slower. The fact that you can build basically 3 marketing cycles around 3 points in the year, and if you took nothing else away from this show, and it's like that is a really big piece of just insight into how this works, and to build a school around those moments, I think is just awesome. I don't know if you did that mindfully or if it just kind of occurred over time, but it is really cool, and I haven't heard that a lot.
I think it did sort of evolve. And you mentioned camps, and we do some other special things in the summer to kind of attract some new students who might not be full on ready for what we're doing with the full band program. Oh my gosh, we're doing an awesome one. We've got an awesome one planned for this summer that we've never done before. We're just opening it up to horn players, and we don't teach any horn. Like, we do guitar, drums, bass, and voice and keyboard, right? But I've got this great instructor who teaches our beginner level rock band, and he's a trumpet player, and among other things. And he was like, we should do a ska band program. And I said, I love this. So let's just target the horn players. And then what we'll do is we'll get them in a group together. We'll do like a short 3-week, 4-week horn focused workshop. And at the very end, we'll bring in the other students to fill out the rest of the band, and they'll play some ska songs. So we're super excited about that one.
That's very cool. And again, what a great opportunity that you're going to be able to bring new people in and include people that otherwise weren't, and do something really fun and unique. Where do those, just a quick question, where do those shows, do they happen at your school?
No, we don't have a performance space in the school, but I've got very good relationships with some other businesses in the community. So we've got 2 venues in particular that we use on a regular basis for our live shows. And one of them had been using it for over a decade at this point. And it's like your classic honky tonk, right? So you've got they serve food and drink, but they've got an amazing stage with fantastic sound system and lights. So it looks amazing. And that's the one that we use for our end of session concerts. So those 3 big concerts per year. And then we'll do a number of community performances. We partner with a local brewery they've got a performance space, and they do some outdoor stuff in the summer. So always partnering with those other businesses. Yeah,
that's just awesome. Because A, it's great to get you out there, but B, it's so much fun. The sooner you can get your kids on a real stage, like they know it. They know it when they're on and they're at a bar. Like they just, or in a music venue or in an actual auditorium. It's so exciting, and it's such a different experience. And to develop some comfort around that is so awesome. And the community loves it so much too, because there's nothing like I asked because of the ska band. I was like, oh my gosh, how fun would it be? Like walk by a bar and see a kid ska band ripping it up.
Right.
Like, it's really fun. So I'm grateful that you're doing that for your community. That's really cool. And let me shift just a little bit because I wanted to ask you why the podcast. So let's talk about that a little bit. You've got this great podcast you've been doing for a while. You're deep in it. You're 80 episodes into this bad boy or something?
Actually, today, as we're recording this, we've got over 100 episodes recorded already, but we just released 98.
Okay, wow. Yes, you're in.
So yeah, it's been a couple of years. And so why? Well, number one, it's funny. Just yesterday, I was listening to your latest podcast episode with
Yeah.
And hearing her story as sort of more of a classical teacher, and hearing her story talk about how she got a backing band of pro musicians for her students to perform, and how exciting that was, she said, for that performance. That's exactly why I'm doing this podcast, right? Because I think number one, I think there are so many instructors, piano, guitar, whatever, private instructors who approach their performances and their lessons in a way that is really deep in tradition. And that tradition, if just tweaked a little bit, I think can become a bit more exciting and can be a bit more community focused, as opposed to more static when everything is one-on-one. And then the recital is literally a recital. And again, that's not to knock those things. I think there's a place for those.
Yep.
But I think if ever there are those instructors who are kind of wondering, well, what else do I do? Right? I'm getting a sense from maybe this student that maybe the traditional recital isn't the best approach. How can I make it more exciting? I'm a firm believer that the things that I do in my studio and the approach that I take with putting kids together, playing together, performing, making it a community experience is adaptable to any style of lesson. I mean, the horn thing is another example, right? Like, why can't horns play with a rock band, right? Why can't you put 3 or 4 piano students together and play music together? Now, I get that pianos are larger, right? Creates some physical barriers, but I don't see any reason why we all can't be doing this if we want to. So to answer your question, why the podcast? That's a big reason why, to sort of bridge that gap and give ideas. My podcast co-host, Mandy, she and I have been friends for about a decade, and she's an opera singer. She went to school for performance and music. I didn't go to school for music. I went to school for business, right? I was just kind of the scrappy, punk rock, alternative rock guy. And, but we've had some amazing conversations over the years, coming from like sort of this oil and water schools of musical environments, right? Where she's the more traditional classical, she's an opera singer, and I came up in bars, right? Playing in bars. And the conversations that we had, we always find a middle ground. And I learned from her and she learns from me. And so one day we just said, why don't we record these? And in hopes of helping other instructors. So that's really the impetus of the podcast.
So you're sharing these ideas for how different ways to approach how you're running your school or your studio, different ways to reach people. As you were telling that story, I was thinking about, I've known this throughout my life being a classical guitar player, a lot of classical musicians that do that traditional path, because I didn't start till late, but I really appreciate that path of what you were saying, the recitals and the learning, and I get where that is steeped in tradition is awesome. And a lot of friends who I knew at conservatories and starting careers of performing with symphonies and getting great gigs they're in a room hanging out playing like folk tunes or like bluegrass or rock or something. They're really uncomfortable. Just like Leela was super uncomfortable when she had a chart put in front of her. And I've heard that story like 4 or 5 times from really well-respected piano teachers. And the thing that I took away from every single one of those conversations, because they were all talking about an experience where they were challenged, like their journey that they had. I'm a concert classical pianist, and here I am looking in the lead sheet, being like, I don't know what to do. And they, instead of pulling away from it, they thought, oh, you know what? I'm going to try this. And they got so much joy out of going through that and learning that thing and offering that thing. And you're right. Tons of piano teachers now are like putting together rooms full of 4 or 5 digital pianos and starting to do these group-based classes and these group-based camps and having so much success. And I wanted to just, when you described Leela's story of this thing of bringing in this backing band, the thing that I picked up when I was talking with her in her body language was how excited she was. Like she had done this thing that was so badass and so cool and everyone loved. And it pushed her. There was the thing, like, I'm sure she had that moment of like, what am I doing? This is a crazy idea. That scary feeling we talked about earlier at the very beginning. And she pushed it. And I loved seeing that light in her eyes where she was describing it. And I was like, and she's like, my students loved it. I was like, dude, you loved it. Like, I can tell that. And if we're amped as teachers and school owners and we're trying new things and we're excited about them, I mean, we're going to succeed so much more. And so what you're describing is this great kind of environment to continually be doing things that bring joy to people, but also to you, right? So I really like that a lot.
Yeah. Eric, you missed, I think, one really important point that I want to circle on in Lila's story. She also said that at that performance, the applause was louder and longer. Right?
Yes. Yeah, I love that.
And the reason is because the audience was part of the experience too. And I think that's incredibly important because as musicians, we can be a little self-centered, right? And we can be hyper-focused on what we are doing and our performance. And even the recital is like this, the nature of the recital is the performer is going to play their piece and the audience is going to be captively listening. There's a barrier between those two, right? They're not connected. But if you go to a concert, that barrier disappears. There's interaction between the performer and the audience, and the audience is much as part of that experience as the performer, and the performer feeds off the energy of the audience feeds off of the performer. It's a give and take. And so when Lila mentioned that, I thought, well, of course, because she's welcoming the audience into this experience.
Right.
And they didn't have that before.
How would you, let's say I'm listening to this and I'm a classical pianist, I do great recitals, my students are awesome, I just finished my spring recital. How would you encourage someone? And I heard you saying including the audience, and it piqued my interest, but I was unsure what that actually meant or how I could maybe introduce the idea of having a more, because I have a feeling people are listening to this and they're thinking, oh my gosh, it's true. My recitals are really a reflection of me. Here's how I've prepared my students. And secondarily, and this is being the truth, not like this is actually what's going on inside, the people in the audience are thinking about how well I've prepared these students and how good of a teacher I am. And secondly, are the kids having fun? Are they performing? Whatever the thing is that we're trying to do, where there's that third piece, which is, I would guess that many instructors don't consider who they're playing for in the audience during the lesson cycle, just because it's a tertiary thing in their mind. How would you welcome someone if you were talking to a teacher that was curious about what do you mean, John? How can I get my audience connected or involved? Do you have some ideas about that?
I love this question. I love it because now we can get creative, right? I think it would depend on the instructor, but I'm going to cite some examples. Jacob Collier comes to mind.
Yeah,
Now,
good.
talk about someone who invites the audience into that performance as a participant, not just a passive observer, right? His performances, in some cases, he's built them so that the audience is part of the whole experience. So I would say that if an instructor is contemplating things to do, start with Jacob Collier. Watch some Jacob Collier videos and see, all right, how does he do this? Let's see.
We'll put some links in the notes. Let's stop it. So this is so interesting, and this has never come up in any of my conversations, but I've watched all of his videos of him. He'll take an audience and he'll break them up, and it could be school teachers, it can be just people in the audience, and he'll basically create harmonies and chords. And he'll be like, "Now I'm going to bring you up a half step," and he'll create these beautiful harmonies with an audience that sounds so good. It just makes your arm hairs stand up. What a cool idea to have like a student bring in, to create our harmonic drone underneath a simple melody that they're playing.
Yeah.
Right? That'd be so cool. And it would help. So what that does is it does take that, when you can pull a little the focus off you as the young performer and include the audience, it takes so much that weight of the anxiety of being the spotlight on you. And then you're actually being a creative performer because the audience does matter. So, I mean, that is such a wonderful, and if you're listening, you can just be like, wow, I'm going to go check out some Jacob Collier stuff, and it might inspire something in you to go in a direction as a jumping off point. That's a great rec. Okay.
And that's like, I think that's a high bar too. But it would, I think it would serve as inspiration, but
inspiration,
even something simpler, right? Something where the bar is maybe a little bit lower. Consider Queen and We Will Rock You, right? How many times has that song been performed and the audience, or even at a sporting event where the entire audience, right? Anything like that gets the audience involved.
Well, and did you do this in your shows? So this is something you factor in.
I encourage we talk about stage presence. We talk about banter and interacting with the crowd. It's difficult for the kids, right? But when they do it, when they finally get it, it's like something clicks and they realize, oh, this makes things so much lighter and so much easier because I don't feel like I'm under a microscope and I'm being watched, but I feel like this interaction breaks down that barrier and we're just all a big, huge room of people enjoying this experience.
What a fun thing that we could talk about this all day. These ideas of different ways to engage an audience, whether it's in a recital or a school show, your own show. But when you're going out and seeing music, start being mindful. Because it's true. Sometimes you'll go see a show and there is that wall. You're seeing this impeccable artist do their thing. And sometimes that's an aesthetic, sometimes it's a choice and a different world. But when you're really brought into a performance, and especially with kids, because the people that are there watching students want so much for them to succeed. They want a joyful experience. They're going to have one no matter what. But like your idea of doing a percussive thing or a call and response or, telling a joke, whatever that thing is, to break down that wall in a recital or performance is something that if you're listening, you can really start exploring as another avenue into your recitals, performances, things that you offer to deepen your offering and to deepen the experience for everybody. I mean, that's a really fantastic contribution you just made there. It's really cool.
And I think as musicians, sometimes we lose sight of what the performance is about for the majority of people, I think. We focus on the technical aspect. Like here's the story. I took my daughter to her first concert a few years back. We went to see Green Day. And, big stadium show, tens of thousands of people there. And she's having the time of her life. I think she was 12 at the time. And just,
no pun intended.
Yeah, there you go. Just screaming along and singing every word and dancing, right? And I was just loving watching her. But I was also watching the band. And in my head, the things I was thinking about were like dorky guitar guy things. Like, oh, what kind of guitar is Billy Joe playing? How's that guitar tone? How's the mix? All of those things that are about the technical aspects of a concert. And at one point, my daughter turned to me and she said, "Why are you just sitting there?" And in my mind, I was like, well, I'm going to have to explain to her that I have a different relationship with music. But then I also realized, like, I'm experiencing this in a way that is very unique to me as a musician. Mm-hmm. I'm not experiencing this as a fan of music, because if I look around this arena and I see tens of thousands of people experiencing it as fans of music, and they're up jumping around, dancing, screaming, having a fantastic time, I'm the weird one, right? I so needed that experience. I so needed to see that through my daughter's eyes to remember how important it is to be a fan of music, and how the majority of people experience music, and that I'm the weird one.
Yeah, that's a great story, and I bet you left with a renewed perspective, because you devote your life to this thing, and it does change. It's different to see a band now than it was when you were 17 and sneaking into a show or something. It is a different, because you're at a different season. The first thing you started the day with talking about is, you mentioned season right away, and it's like you're in a different season where by nature you'd be really curious to how they execute that show. But you still want that spark of understanding what it's like to really experience a show. Yeah. And you can enjoy that, and you can feel it through yourself, but also through watching your daughter. I mean, it's a great story, and I'm sure it refreshed your perspective. Oh,
totally. And what's weird, and this is going to sound crazy, but since then, and I have to credit that experience for this. Since then, when I go to performances, when I see live shows, I feel more emotional in certain instances than I have in years. Like the emotion that's involved in the music hits me in a different way. I think because I'm allowing myself to just enjoy the performance rather than spend the entire time thinking about set list and and like mix and lights and sound and everything like that. It's like turning off the part of me that's my job, and like getting back to what fired me up about music when I was a kid. And man, it's nice to be back with that experience, I think. Yeah. And rekindling that relationship, I think, and respecting it, because that's the reason you started doing this to begin with. Right. It's like there was a thing that drove you crazy about music, and it's like, it's a long relationship, and it changes, and there's seasons and there's context, but yeah. Do you know about, Eric, do you know the curse of knowledge? Are you familiar with that concept? Oh, why don't you share it? So the curse of knowledge, and I read this in Adam Grant's book. I can't remember what the book is, but the concept is that the further away you get from that beginner stage of learning anything, and the closer you get to mastery, the harder it is to relate to the beginner learner. And he referenced a study where they were in a college class, and the students liked and felt more confident with the student teacher or the teacher's assistant presenting the material than the experienced professor. And yeah, it's that idea that like, yes, we're at this level with what we do as musicians, but our students are all like way down here, right? So if we want to be the most effective, we have to remember what it's like to be that beginner and put ourselves in that situation.
The curse of knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I share this all the time when I'm talking to younger teachers, especially, is the same thing. Is like, I knew when I got out of music school and I started teaching, I loved it. I knew that I had something that the older teachers didn't, because I was so close to learning. I was still practicing 4 hours a day, and I was super pumped. And I was only, in most cases, like 5 years older than like the kids I was teaching. Yeah. So there was this, I was so close to the process of learning. And I thought it gave me a confidence and something that, I didn't have the experience as pedagogically that I would now, but there's something great about it. Just exactly what you're saying. You're closer to that source, that Zen mind, beginner's mind, that whole thing, which is great. And that's kind of what we're trying to return to, right?
Yeah.
It's like one of my favorite books of all time, which is, I don't know if you Zen mind, beginner's mind, but it's like it's the kind of the outline of exactly what you're discussing. So anyway, that is a wonderful concept, and thanks for sharing. Before we jump off today, I want to thank you so much for being here, but I know that you've got this curriculum getting ready to come out that I'm assuming is built from your experience with your school and that you use in your school. Can you tell me about that, or how people could, if they're interested in this kind of this journey, what you got cooking up?
Yeah. So getting ready to come out, it's as these big projects go,
heck yeah,
the deadlines keep getting pushed back and back. But again, what it is a mixed instrument beginner band program. Mm-hmm. And what we do is we take the kids from beginner stages on guitar, drums, bass, keys, or voice, and in each one of the classes, we break it down into 3 sections. So the first section is, we call it Universal Fundamentals. So we're teaching all of these kids, it's almost like a lecture portion. We're teaching them all things like, well, what's a whole note? What's a half note? Dynamics, these things that all instrument players need to know. And then the second portion of every class is students have instrument specific exercises that they work on. And we've got a whole series of books for each instrument and play along videos that the kids work through. And then the last part of every class is really where the magic happens, because they get to play together. So whatever that concept is that they were working on through that class, now they're applying it as a band, right? And even if it's as simple as, all right, everyone's going to play an E, a whole note, right? Everyone's going to play at the same time. And over the course of about 3 to 4 months, we can take them from that beginner stage to performing a song on stage.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's not ready to be launched to the world yet. We've been using it at my studio for a few years now, and it really was born out of this problem that we saw, where we've got another program that we license that's a very beginner music program for 5, 6, 7-year-olds.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's very interactive, and it's great for that age range, right? But we saw kids come out of that, and then we would put them in private lessons, and there was this immediate buzzkill. Like, wait, I went from playing music with these other kids to now I'm doing this thing. I'm in a room with an adult who's really focused on these things that seem a lot harder, and it's just like not as fun. And
just sweet picking all day.
Yeah, there you go. So it was like, I immediately saw like, man, this is a problem, because if these kids at 7 years old are super fired up about learning music at an age appropriate level, and then they get to that point where, like, yes, they can dedicate themselves to a specific instrument, but the wind just is sucked out of their sails because of how the instruction is delivered. We need a solution to that problem, right? We need to find a better way so that we can prolong the need for private lessons and keep them fired up.
Interesting. Well, I can't wait to see this when it comes out and to learn all about it. It sounds really cool.
Yeah.
I have a perfect jam spot to test this out. 1 million kids.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Nice. Well, yeah. Hopefully, we're going to be doing some test groups near the end of this year, and then hopefully by the end of the year, we should be able to launch it to people who are interested.
Very cool. I can't wait to check it out. Well, hey, John, thank you so much for being here today. This was an awesome chat, and we should do it again soon. And I appreciate your time. This was excellent.
Thank you, Eric. It's always an absolute pleasure to talk with you. It's always a good time. Thank you.
Right on. Let's do it again soon. Thanks.
All right.
You've been listening to the 440 Podcast. If you found this helpful, subscribe at Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave a quick rating. It makes a big difference. To learn how to run your studio with less stress and more joy, visit makemusic.studio.com. I'm your host, Eric Branner.